Here's something almost nobody expects. The calm, unbothered person who seems immune to toxic behavior probably doesn't have a higher IQ than you. 2015 study on intelligence found the opposite pattern, that people who test higher on IQ often score lower on emotional intelligence. So if raw intelligence isn't the reason some people stay unshaken around difficult people, what is? The answer isn't a trait, it's a set of trained behaviors, and once you see them, you can unsee how much of handling toxic people well was never about being smart at all. We use the word smart loosely when we talk about people who seem unbothered by manipulation, guilt-tripping, or conflict. But intelligence research draws a hard line between two different things: IQ, your raw analytical horsepower, and EQ, your ability to read and regulate emotion, your own and other people's. Those two don't move together. Some of the sharpest analytical minds struggle the most socially, overthinking every exchange, missing emotional cues, feeling constantly out of step with the room. Meanwhile, some of the calmest, most unshakable people in conflict have never taken an IQ test in their life. What they have instead is a specific learnable skill set. Everything seemed like a personality trait, something you either had or didn't, until it became clear these were just habits, repeatable by anyone. The first hidden mechanic is what researchers sometimes call the gray rock method. Toxic behavior, especially manipulative behavior, runs on your reaction. Anger, tears, frantic explanation. That response is the reward the other person is fishing for. So the people who seem unbothered aren't suppressing a reaction through sheer willpower. They've trained themselves to stop generating one in the first place. Flat tone, short answers, no performance for an audience that isn't listening in good faith. Picture the moment. Someone pushes for a reaction, a guilt trip, an accusation, a twisted version of events. The trained response isn't a bigger argument, it's almost nothing at all. And that absence is what actually ends the exchange. But here is where the story takes a turn most people don't expect. Because staying quiet only works if you also stop trying to be understood. This is the second, less obvious layer, and it's counterintuitive on purpose. The instinct when someone twists your words is to explain yourself more clearly. One more clarification, one more piece of context, surely this time they'll get it. But with a person who isn't arguing in good faith, every explanation becomes new material. Psychologists have a name for this trap. Justify, argue, defend, explain. Jade. And the pattern is consistent. The more you jade, the more rope you hand someone who was never trying to understand you to begin with. Ask yourself this: if explaining yourself hasn't worked the first 10 times with this particular person, why would the 11th time land differently? Stay with me, because the reason this keeps happening isn't a communication failure. It's a mismatched game, and once you see that, the next part changes how you'll read every difficult relationship in your life. Here's the deepest layer, and it's where the real correction happens. We've been told the ability to stay calm and clear-headed around difficult people is a marker of intelligence, proof that smart people just handle things better. The research says otherwise. Higher IQ has been linked to weaker emotional and social read on a room, not stronger. Which means the entire framing is backwards. The calm, boundaried person in your life isn't operating from a bigger brain. They're operating from a smaller emotional dependency on being understood by people who were never going to understand them. That's not intelligence. That's decoupling, separating your sense of self-worth from someone else's opinion of you, whether or not that person is being fair. For years we've called this trait being smart, simply because it looks composed from the outside. It isn't composure from intellect. It's a boundary, quietly rehearsed, until it stopped requiring effort to hold. This distinction matters right now, because it changes what you think you're missing. If you've ever felt frozen or reactive around a difficult coworker, family member, or ex, and told yourself you're just not built for this the way other people are, that framing was never accurate. The practical shift is small. The next time you feel the pull to over-explain, notice it as a habit, not a character flaw. Habits can be retrained regardless of how high or low your IQ score is. Most people will keep treating this as a personality difference. Now you know it's a skill gap, which means it closes. The people who seem unbothered by toxic behavior were never smarter. They just stopped needing to be understood by people who were never listening. If this reframed the relationship you're dealing with, pass it to someone who's still trying to explain their way out of one. Next time we look at what happens when you apply grey rocking too broadly, and how to keep it from bleeding into relationships that actually deserve your full presence.